Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. Today, it's back into our play-by-email challenge with the devilish Mr. Laudric, and this is the combat resolution of January 26th and January 27th of the year 1942. So we're getting deep into January here, almost into February. As I said, every turn that clicks by is a good thing for the Allies. As you grow in strength, it's all about holding off that Japanese horde until you just start pumping out so much production that it'll eventually kind of overwhelm the Japanese. But you can't let the game get away from you before then. That's what we're attempting. So anyway, let's jump in. Let's see what happened on the 26th and 27th. The kind of the areas of interest, of course, are China. That developing situation is we'd really try to hold on there and just produce a stalemate. So we can't shift those Japanese forces into other places to hold out against us once we go on the offensive. And then I'm trying to think, down the western coast of Australia, we've seen some activity in and around Perth. We'll see if the Japanese have a task force that, is going to try to run in, do the old hit and run on the Perth port, or otherwise. We've got a lot of our stuff going around the southern edge of that now into Esperance and Albany. Down the east coast of Australia, we've got his carriers, but let's jump in. Let's see. It's better rather than me tell you about it. Let's watch it. And off we go. There has been, a little bit of activity about Rangoon, but really over in that Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean area, there hasn't been a whole lot lately. He's done a raid, of course, in on Diego Garcia. When it comes to the Pacific, kind of over by Hawaii, Midway, Palmyra, Christmas Island, Pago, Suva, there hasn't been a whole lot of action down there recently. Of course, we had the disaster at Suva a little bit ago. Now, this is our submarine, the Cachalot. Now, the Cachalot's gotten shots off on things. This time it looks like it got discovered. We'll find out. Yep, it's an ASW attack, anti-submarine warfare attack near Rabal. So the PB Nakai Maru found us. No damage though. Dutch sub over here, and we'll see who found who. That could be the title of the song. Again, this is a PB. Okay, well, it was cited. Nothing much happened. That was an ASW attack. You can see, we've kind of run into, or he's run into us off the coast of Mersing here, but he's got obviously some escort because we're mainly running into PBs here. You see, cited by escort, we bottom out. Nothing else really happens. They can't find us from there on. The Dutch subs usually a little more effective than they have been in this game. He's done a good job of running escorts against the AI. Usually your Dutch subs can really wreak some havoc. But in this game or against any human player that's pretty good, uh, they're going to run escort and they're not nearly as effective. Okay, this is an AK, but I think this is a landing force out here by Lay. We'll see what else he's got as we escape through that. Okay, it's two AKs, kind of interesting. Defensive guns engage, 6 coastal gunshots fired in defense. We don't hit anything. He doesn't really do any damage to us either, but now he's unloading on the coast at Lay. It's not looking good for us to keep Port Moresby. We haven't been able to get enough supply in there to hold out for a long time. And now that he's already in at Lay, he'll probably be landing at Buna in the not too distant future. It's going to be very difficult to keep Port Moresby. Okay, he's trying to bombard a little bit more there, more troops landing. He's already taken Bali Poppin, which we just saw the game glance over there for a second. We're seeing some submarine activity, both off the U.S. West Coast. Oh, there were 5 Japanese ships at Darwin, so that's something we'll need to keep in mind. Lots of sightings. Now we're saying we see 4 Japanese ships, but oftentimes those are misidentified Allied ships. And so sometimes when you know there's probably 0% chance that the Japanese are in that area, look and see if you have a task force in that area. Because oftentimes somebody from the coast will say, oh my gosh, I saw 4 Japanese ships, ring the bell, let's Paul Revere this thing. But really, they just saw Allied ships and got a little scared. Zero's over the top of Yan'an. Now, as time goes on, I'm pulling out of Yan'an. We're going to take all of those to Lanchao. He's bombing this partisan force that's up on the border of Sarawak, North Borneo. He's got 3 Mabels in on this group that was originally over here in Konsen, tried to move over to Kukong, eventually got knocked out of all this and is heading up to Hengyang. All right, lots of bombers in this time. No damage. What was the weather? It was only light clouds. Usually, when you see no damage on bombing runs like this, it's because there's severe thunderstorms or rain of some sort. But nothing that time. He just missed. 25 Sonias in on this group that's just trying to get the hell out of here. We damage 4 of that. This group really damages a lot of planes. Who knows how many of these are actually going down? 75 casualties on the ground for the Allies. All right, 27 Anns, 54 Sallys, 30 Lilies. That's a huge bombing force into Yan'an. Of course, we really don't have any fighters over here. We damage 7 planes. We take 253 casualties. Wow. That was a huge bombing force. Hopefully, some of those went down on the way back to their bases. 2750 bombers in here to this group that's just to the west of Loyang, that's moving out of Loyang. We only damage 1 plane, 95 casualties happen. All right, 34 bombers in on them again. 2 damaged planes, 27 casualties. All right, 15 bombers here, 5 of them Lilies, 10 Anns. Nothing doing. He's missing down in the south. His bombardiers not hitting their targets. 26 Sallies in on Yan'an this time. We damage 1 plane. Wow, that puts us well over 300 casualties in that group from the bombing runs just so far. We've damaged 8 planes, but now we've taken about 350 casualties. Pretty slow so far. Not a lot of action. We haven't seen any surface fleet action. 19 Sonias in on the southeastern Chinese groups. 8 casualties there. All right, they try to hit that again. 10 more casualties. Okay, trying to bomb Yan'an yet again. Oh no, this was a sweep. I'm sorry. So actually, his sweeps end up happening after his bombing runs. Those just didn't get timed up quite right. But we had no fighters there either way, so it doesn't really matter. The Enterprise out here, the light cruiser Enterprise, it just told us was having some flotation problems. We're claiming Okay, so our carriers are moving off the West Coast. I'm moving them back out to Pearl Harbor. We're spotting things. Now, my guess is that those are submarines, but we are spotting Japanese ships. It doesn't differentiate necessarily. It may tell you there's a periscope up or something like that, but when it says 6 Japanese ships, that very well could be submarines, because I doubt he has a surface fleet over here. 15 Lilies in, nothing happens. He misses again. not very powerful units out by lay. Okay, here's an amphibious assault. Oh, so it told me, but I didn't see that end up. Bwele, I think? Bole? All right, task force returned to port. Now it's the land move attack phase. Usually that's been in China lately. Let's see if we get anything here. Nope. No land combat on January 26, 1942. And now we're going to expand our ports and our forts and our airfields. Now, I'm of the mind I only expand things that I'm actually going to really use or think I need to use. For instance, a place that you think will eventually get attacked, we up the fort level, right? Places where you actually really want to base planes, up the airfields. Now, I'm not trying to be ridiculous. Obviously that just is common sense, but I find that sometimes people just want to expand everything. You want to make every single base as good as it can be. It's a real big waste of supply because it does take supply to build these things up. So, yeah, I mean, if you're kind of undecided, then it comes down to how easy is it to get the supply there. So, for instance, Nadi, which is right next to Suva, right? You might not need both of those built up. It's nice to have both of them built up in case the Japanese carriers come there and bomb the crud out of the Suva airfield. You can just move all your planes over to Nadi, and now you've got two, airfields that you can operate out of. But if you don't think that's going to happen, it's oftentimes very difficult to get a lot of supply. You have supply problems out of Suva. You may just say, you know what, I'm not going to build up Nadi. That's fine. We've got Suva. I'm going to build that up. And those are the kind of decisions you have to make just kind of based on how the game's going. But don't feel like you have to build up every damn base in the game. For instance, I'm trying to think of one that people probably build up that you don't need to build up. Some of them down the Australian coast, I don't know, like Bundaberg, for instance. I've seen people they just turn everything on up and down the east coast of Australia. If you're getting enough supply in there, I mean, go for it. But if you're not really going to have planes at Bundaberg, not really. If you're not going to have a big force there, what's the point? I mean, why do that? Or Broome and Derby are good examples on the northern coast of Australia. I mean, you may want to have Broome built up because you may be running, recon flights out of there, for instance. All right, here's some Dutch sub activity as we are now on January 27th. Nothing happening there. He found us. We didn't find him. So I say sub activity, but this is all his ASW work as our Dutch subs continue to not be able to snare anything. Do we get another shot here? Nope, that's PB. It's probably more anti-sub work, and it is. And this time, he actually gets a hit in on our sub. Now, we're not showing fires, we're not showing heavy damage, but he did get a hit in there. And so we're probably going to have to return to Surabaya. All right. As we continue with the slowness of this turn, not a whole lot of action this time. We needed a breather. There's just been a lot going on. And again, 2 days will click by. That's a positive for the Allies. Out here with Dutch subs again, right off Mersing. It's another ASW attack. So he's got a lot of ASW work going on. He knows that that's where we would like to have our Dutch subs operate. Okay, these are two little AKLs that were trying to get out to Port Moresby. I decided to take the chance. They're only 1 point ships. Oh, wow. Okay, I had escaped through that because I just assumed they were going to get hit by the carriers. No, and we ended up, kind of fast forwarding through a few things. They were all just sightings. Anytime you have any combat, it stops the game and pops up here. There's his carriers. Now, these are the two AKLs I was talking about, but it seems like he's more focused on Port Moresby. Man, that might be a good idea. Now, it's light rain over Moresby. 14 zeros in. Okay, so his carriers have moved back up the coast. I have no idea if us throwing our fighters up is what caused him to say, oh, okay, or if he was just going to do it anyway. He just did a sally down here. Now he's coming back up. I'd like to think our defense, as weak as it may have been, maybe caused him to say, oh, okay, we've done enough down there. Let's come up here and hit on Moresby. Let's see. 014s, or 14 zeros, I should say, just swept over Moresby to see what we had there. 4 zeros sweep over Yan'an. We've got Mabel's in on this Chinese stack. No damage done there. We've got what appears to be about 60 or 70 bombers over that group this time. Amazingly, we only take 6 casualties. Like I said, his bombardiers down in the south have been really bad this time. 25 Sonias out here by this group that's trying to get up around through Nanyang somehow. 3 damage planes, 55 casualties. I'll have to remember this next time I play. These guys out here, just let them sit somewhere and damage planes. They've got some really good anti-aircraft. Now that was 100 bombers, 110 bombers, 4 damaged. We take 189 casualties in Yan'an now. That's over 500 casualties in Yan'an. That's about 13 damaged planes. So I don't know how that's going to shake out, but we've taken a lot of casualties there. This is about almost 60 bombers. One got damaged, 94 casualties down here in the southeastern part of China. 6 ANs. Okay, nothing happening there. 12 IDAs on this group trying to get back to Aicheng. Okay, 23 casualties. About what, almost 60 bombers here on this group trying to get out of Loyang still. We damaged 3 planes. We took 64 casualties. 6 ANs. 7 casualties reported. 57 bombers in on Yan'an again. We damaged 3 more planes. We take 55 casualties. A lot of those are disabled, though. They're not completely knocked out, destroyed. This is the group getting out of Loyang. 1 damaged plane, 45 casualties. When I say that, what I mean is you can see here what the breakdown is. Squads, 0 destroyed, 1 disabled. That's still in the game. Non-combat, 1 destroyed, 2 disabled. This is gone, obviously destroyed. You know what that means. But disabled can repair itself and come back. So zeros with the sweep. This time, his missions seem to have gotten backwards. His bombers have come in first. His zeros had swept later. Have swept later. In some cases, in some respects, it just doesn't matter. Okay, those AKLs are going to sink out here. I must admit, I don't know if I accidentally fast forwarded through that. Um, I think those AKLs maybe okay. 9 Japanese ships off Perth there. Now it says 7 Japanese ships off Pearl Harbor, but I think those must be submarines. And now we're seeing his ships move down here through the strait down towards the Dutch East, down towards Java. Okay, here's carriers again. 14 zeros over Port Moresby. Nothing going on. 27 Bettys, 36 Nells. The planes we had at Port Moresby are damaged. We've got 6 damaged fighters out there, and essentially I'm just going to have to get them out because the runway's starting to get chewed up a little bit. Here's the partisans out here. 1 damaged, 43 casualties. I call them partisans. They were a base force, but of course they're up in the mountains of Sarawak now, so they're rightfully labeled partisans, I think. All right, 6 Tojos over Changsha. Nothing doing there. 9 Sonyas. Nothing. He misses again down in this area. He's flying over Great Nicobar, it seems. 6 Sonias in on this group in southeastern China. Carriers, here we go. 14 zeros. A sweep over Port Moresby. Nothing going on. All right, very quiet, very quiet. Dutch subs and Japanese anti-sub, and it looks like we got hit there, and we did indeed. 3 hits on S39. This area has not been fruitful. I think we're just going to have to pull these Dutch subs. We can see 3 different task force groups that he's got down here. I think we're going to have to pull the Dutch subs down here by Batavia and Surabaya. We're just getting no joy up here. It looks like he's pretty much got nothing but anti-sub work up there. So, I thought he was maybe going to be bringing some supplies and fuel over to Mersing. He has unloaded troops, but his escort's been very good. All right, we're already onto the land move attack phase. Let's see if there anything happened this time. Nope. Wow. Very, very quiet. Okay, well, we finally get a little bit of a rest turn here. Auckland Airfield up to 7. San Luis Obispo. Now, that's one I probably don't need to be expanding. That's a good example of one you don't need to expand down the California coast. Although, when it comes to the west coast of the U.S., you have so much supply, so much fuel that you can do it. That's why I've got it turned on. You're never going to run out. I mean, I don't care if you're, advancing everything in the game. So maybe the U.S. West Coast isn't a great example. Australia is a much better example because you do have finite resources there. U.S. West Coast, you have infinite resources. Now, whether San Luis Obispo ever needs to be built up, probably not. I mean, unless the Japanese are going to do an invasion of the U.S. West Coast, which I've never actually seen in this game, but I think has happened, certainly. Um, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Seattle, that's what you're really looking to build. But sure, I mean, you've got infinite resources. What difference does it make? All right, we get an AK in, an AP in at Aden. We get a new squadron of RAF. We get new fighters in at Los Angeles here. Those are the ones we sent down the rails from the East Coast. 8th, 7th U.S. Bomber Command arrives at Pearl Harbor. We talked about that last time because we got the overall 7th Command. Now we've gotten 7th Fighter and 7th Bomber, I believe. And that is the one that's, at Pearl Harbor. That's the main air command out at Pearl Harbor. So anyway, well, that turn, we took a breather. We took a little bit of a breather because holy smokes, there's been a lot that's happened in this game. But this time, this was a good turn for us. I think we lost one little AKL. He did really kind of, demonstrate over Port Moresby. The bombing's coming. He did the sweeps with his fighters over Port Moresby. He saw that we didn't get any fighters up in Cap, so I would assume he's just going to start devastating that airfield and the port for that matter. Um, so we'll check that up in the setup. We haven't really looked at Moresby that much. We may look around in Australia. Yeah, I don't know. We maybe up in India. We'll just see. I'm not sure what fancy is going to strike me, but we'll look around during our setup, do the kind of big overall picture, look at the stats, and when we come back, that will be it. It'll be the setup for January 28th, as this game is scooting along now. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been Strategy Gaming Dojo. I'll talk to you next time.